Doing kind of a hot seat, so I'm really looking forward to it. Our next speech is titled Juror Number 11. Our speaker will tell his experience of reporting for and preparing for jury duty. The story focuses on the process of selecting participants to bring into the courtroom and the reason for the whole process. Ironically, our speaker is speaking from the Angry Man's Speech Manual, a project titled Oh Good Grief, and challenges the speaker to find the humor in stressful situations where bureaucracy rules. Please help me welcome Phil Brady, who, according to the judge, is no longer allowed in New Hanover County unless in handcuffs or leg irons. Anita, the time is 7 to 9 minutes. Please help me welcome Phil Brady.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, good morning.
Good morning.
Back in January, I received a summons to report to jury duty the first week of March. I read both sides of it, filled out the back, and told my lovely wife, Patty, I think I want to be a juror. I've shirked this responsibility on many occasions, and I want to be a good citizen for my country, for my state, and for my county. The night before jury duty, I went to bed early. I got up early. I got all clean, stood real close to the razor. Socks and shoes, khaki pants, pressed blue shirt, and sport coat. And then I was stepping like a natural born man. Found my way downtown to the parking deck, managed to get to the metal detectors unscathed, and reported to room 417, the juror assembly room. I walked in the door about 8:40. We had to be there at 9. As I stepped to the door, there they were. My people. Older folks like me, we can't be fussing with having to hurry to get places. We get places early. We find where the water fountain is. We find the bathroom. And we settle into a nice seat. The summons suggested we bring a book, and I brought a book. Everybody else was reading books, Nooks, Kindles, surfing the web on their iPhones, listening to music, and I brought a book. I'd gone down to the library and checked out Crime and Punishment for 2 reasons. One, I couldn't find In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. Somebody had checked it out. And I couldn't find Jeffrey Dahmer's biography. I think it might have been over in the cookbook section. So I sat down, settled in to read, but I could not read. The entertainment value of those coming through the door was far more entertaining than Crime and Punishment. It was like the county had sent some buses down to Walmart and just started collecting the people coming out, bringing them downtown and saying, "You're a jury, go upstairs." A sad and sorry lot proceeded to parade through the door. By 9:15, we were 100 strong, and this nice young lady, dressed very nice, with a New Hanover County Courthouse badge, walked in and introduced herself as the jury clerk. She said, "I'm here to prepare and process you for jury duty. However, if you don't think you can make jury duty today, step outside with me and we'll talk about it." So she stepped outside and about 2 dozen people went out with her. Now there's only 3 reasons you can on your own get out of jury duty. One, you're self-employed and you can't afford to take time away from work. It just would be too much of a financial strain. Or people are really dependent on you. 2, you have medical appointments that you can't reschedule. And 3, you're a full-time student and you brought your class schedule with you. She left with 2 dozen people, and when she came back, she was by herself. So those folks got out of it. She said, before we move any further, she said, based on my experience, I don't want to waste the court's time with people that I know are not going to be selected for jury duty, so I'm going to dismiss some of you right now. She said, if you look like a homeless person, Angry Bob, or a crazy bag lady, you can leave right now. If you look like the tattooed lady at the carnival, you may go. If you have Tourette's, bulbar affect syndrome, or you're a weeping Wanda, please go now. If you're a skinhead, white supremacist, you may leave. If you have a beard like ZZ Top, or the headmaster of the Hogwarts School of Wizardry, you may go. And on it went. And she called the net for another 15 people or so. At that point, she said, now it's time for you all to come forward. I want you to show your badge and a photo ID, and I'm going to scan your badge and look at your ID. And then I want you to take a Bible off one of these carts over here. I will swear all of you in unison. So I walked up, held my badge up, held my photo ID. She scanned it. Went over to a cart. It must have been 100 Bibles. There were only about 55 of us. So I picked up a stack of 10 Bibles, because I always wanted to tell people I had sworn on a stack of Bibles. Now you see where this is going. Now I can swear on a stack of Bibles that I've sworn on a stack of Bibles. When I got back to my seat, I set the stack of Bibles down, picked up the top copy, opened to the book of Judges, and began to read. Out loud. Until the woman sitting next to me suggested I could read to myself. I looked over at head bobbing girl. This is a girl who had been sitting over there with her earphones on, bobbing her head back and forth. Her earphones weren't in, but she too was reading from the Bible, which I thought was kind of odd until I realized she wasn't reading from the book of Judges. She was reading from the book of Jeremiah, which made perfect sense because, as we all know, in addition to being a great prophet of the Old Testament, the prophet Jeremiah also was, anyone? A bullfrog. Jeremiah was a bullfrog, was a good friend of mine. You people really don't want to hear the truth, do you? I never understood a single word he said, but I helped him to drink his wine. Thank you very much. We'll finish that song later, I promise. It was at that point the jury clerk left the room for a little while. She was going to go check on the jury, check on the court, see how things were going. When she came back, she said, they're almost ready for you. But I want to go over a few reasons why you might be excused from jury duty once you go inside. She said, if you have a summons to appear for jury duty, but you have another summons to appear in the adjacent courtroom as the defendant, you might be excused from jury duty. She said, if you look like the defendant or his crazy cousin Al sitting on the front row, you may be excused from jury duty. If the bailiff tells you to remove your hoodie, and when you remove it, you have a second hoodie on under the first hoodie, you might be excused from jury duty. If when you walk in the courtroom, some of the spectators stand up and start flashing gang signs at you. I walked in the courtroom and looked over to the left, and these 5 guys stand up and they start doing all these gestures. I started to steal second base until I realized they weren't talking to me, they were talking to the guy behind me. We settled into our seats, and I started looking to see if I could find who the defendant was. He wasn't worth a spot. I mean, the guy just looked guilty. I thought, this is going to be easy. Shady looking guy in a cheap suit, had kind of a hound dog face, and big circles under his eyes. Kind of guy that would steal anything that wasn't tied down. But I was wrong. That wasn't the defendant. That was the defendant's attorney. The defendant was this skinny little guy over there in an ill-fitting suit, and he had this posture as he was sitting down, like he was going to get everything that he deserved as a citizen. He wanted a jury trial. But as we swept into the courtroom and began to fill up the seats, we came in like an evil tide, a sad and sorry lot of people. And as the courtroom filled up, as we came in like waves of emotion came over the defendant's face. He went from that defiant look to a confused look, like this is supposed to be a jury of my peers? I think I might be in trouble here. That plea deal's starting to look good. You see, this is the diabolical plan of our district attorney. Anybody who turns down a plea deal, he brings into the courtroom and parades the tired, the poor, the huddled masses of Wilmington in front of those yearning to be free. And they take the plea deal, and that's exactly what happened here. The defendant talked to his attorney approached the prosecuting attorney, they approached the judge, and sure enough, the judge is talking to us and he's saying, "Thank you for your service. You're an important part of the judicial system, but you are no longer needed and you are free to go." On the elevator ride down, we were so happy. We're just giddy. I had 3 days off and didn't know what to do with myself. I felt guilty about that until I realized we too were yearning to be free. And then we were. As our group stepped out of the elevator and on the courthouse steps, a woman leading our little group stopped and gasped. The sun was shining, the birds were singing, and she said, "What a joyful day." I looked over at head bobbing girl and smiled, and she smiled back at me. We locked arms together and walked down the steps, singing joy to the world, all the boys and girls, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, joy to you and me. Everybody, joy to the fishes in the deep blue sea, joy to you and me.
What a great refrain.